Welcome to Easy Email Marketing. I'm your host, Yale Keown, mum, FIFO wife, MBA, coffee lover, survivor superfan, and creator of the email experience. In Easy Email Marketing, you'll benefit from my nearly 20 years experience, where I'll be teaching you all the tips, tricks, and insider info on how to create feel-good, non-spammy experiences for your subscribers. Let's get stuck in. Welcome back to Easy Email Marketing. I'm your host, Yale Keown, and today I have a very quick bit of homework for you, a 5-minute email engagement checkup. So just at the time of recording this, we are reaching the midpoint of the year. So end of June in Australia is the end of financial year, is the end of the quarter. So this is a fantastic time to do a quick check of your numbers. Of course, I would love you to do something really comprehensive and do a deep dive, but I recognize that is not always possible. So in this episode, I'm sharing like this 5-minute checkup that you can do. So we'll have a look at your opens, your clicks, your unsubscribes, and also your sales conversion rates. And we'll look at some of the different ranges of performance and touch briefly on what you can do to improve. If you did want to play along, I've also created a quiz version of this with a few more things you can look at and lots more tips along the way. You can head to yalekeown.com/email quiz, or one word, to take that and see how we can improve your email marketing statistics. Also, do make sure to check out the show notes for this episode, as I will link up other episodes or blogs to help with some of the improvements you might identify. This is intentionally rapid fire. I'm not going to go deep into some of the things you can do to tweak things and improve things. Instead, we want to just cast a big picture so you can get a vibe as to how well you are going. So, if you're ready to get stuck in, let's do this. First, of course, head over to your email marketing software and go to your campaigns or broadcasts tab. So we are looking specifically at your campaigns for this, not your automations. They will have very different opens and clicks and other sorts of conversion rates because of the whole timing situation. Instead, we are looking specifically at campaigns or broadcasts. Then from there, you can just choose to get a feel for what, range your opens and your clicks and your unsubscribes have, or if it's easy for you, you can go and generate a report, or your software may even have a reporting dashboard. So the first thing we will look at is your open rates, and again, specifically for campaigns. So the average open rate is 42.35%. That is according to MailerLite. They compared 3.3 million campaigns, so quite a few, and they came up with that average. Now that is industry-wide. Specifically for e-commerce, it is lower, and I will reference e-commerce as a second option for many of these metrics because it is a slightly different beast. It's actually 31.08% according to MailerLite, or using Klaviyo's email marketing benchmark report, 37.93%. I will link both of those reports in the show notes so you can check it all out for yourself. So, what is a good open rate, or when should you be concerned? So, for general businesses, I would say less than 25%, you definitely need to look at some improvement, and less than 20% for e-commerce. So if you're sitting at those levels, the things that I would be looking at are firstly your deliverability. I would go do some deliverability checks with Google, Postmaster tools, with Mail Tool Tester. Once again, I'll link to some resources about that. And I would also look at cleaning up your list, because obviously there are a lot of people on there who are just not opening or engaging. If you're sitting between 25 to 40% or around 20 to 30% for e-commerce, you are sitting below average. So I would still look at doing a list cleanup, but then I would just have a look at things like your subject lines. Like, can you play with them to see if that can improve your open rates? Can you look at the timing of your emails and send them at a time that is more likely to get opens? And of course, having a think and a look at the type of content you are sending. Is it the content that your audience actually wants. And there are plenty of episodes helping you with that. If you are sitting between 40 to 50% or 30 to 45% for e-commerce, I would say you have a strong open rate. But of course, we can still want to improve. So once again, I would still be looking at your content and subject lines. But you could start looking at segmenting as well and sending to smaller groups of subscribers, and that all about increasing the relevance. So you're sending your emails to smaller groups and maybe more emails, but you are, making them more specific just to them. And the last episode, actually, I dove a lot deeper into how you can, segment your audience. And at this stage, you might even want to start considering emailing a little bit more than you are as well, depending on your current frequency. And if you are sitting over 50% or over 45% for e-commerce, you are doing amazing. Keep it up. Pat on the back. Definitely look at this combined with your other email metrics. And I would be considering actually emailing more often because you're not fatiguing your audience if they are opening up near those levels. One note on all of these open rates is they are not as reliable as they used to be. They used to actually be significantly lower. And that's because of the Apple Mail Privacy Protection rules, which basically means that unless someone has their privacy protection turned off on an Apple device, then it will automatically say an email is opened. And approximately 52% of opens come from Apple Mail. Now, that does not mean 52% of your opens are false opens. Obviously, still a portion of them are legitimately opening, but it does show that these are a little bit artificially inflated, which means the actual more important metric for you is your click rate. This will really tell you if your audience is engaging. So the average, according to MailerLite, is 2%. Or 1.19% for e-commerce, and Klaviyo's e-commerce average that they came up with is very close, 1.29%. So if your click rate is below 1% for general businesses or less than 0.75% for e-commerce, I would say you need to look to improve. Now, obviously, you need to have links in your email for people to be clicking through. If you send an email that doesn't have a link in it, or that doesn't have a prominent call to action, and it's just like a few things like a website link in the footer or something like that, obviously we're not going to expect many clicks from those campaigns. And if that's you, I would definitely say, well, make sure you have some sort of action for someone to take in every email that you send. So that's the first thing to ask, are you using a call to action? But additionally, if your click rate is sitting at these levels, but your open rate is actually still quite good, this could be an indication that your open rates are actually inflated due to the Apple privacy protection thing, and they might not actually be as good as you had hoped. So if you're sitting here, I would definitely still be looking at that deliverability and that list cleanup, but along with asking yourself, are you using a call to action? If you are sitting at 1 to 2% or between about 0.75 to 1.2% for e-commerce, you are sitting below average. So again, I would be looking at what your calls to action are. And are you using multiple types? So if you are always just saying buy now, shop now, buy now, book now, and that's the only thing you are linking, then that's not really, exciting for me to click. We need to mix it up a little bit. So are you linking to additional content, to blogs, to podcasts, to videos, to your social media? Are you having just different clickable links that are to vote on things? Are you using some of the extra engagement tools that you can use to help improve, those click rates and that engagement? And this is important because not only does it, give these rates a little boost, but it is also for your sender reputation and your deliverability, etc. So that doesn't mean you never have those other sales calls to action. Obviously, e-commerce, you definitely want to be having a buy now in pretty much every email you send. And your services or courses, you can absolutely always mention it. But that's not always going to be the focus. So make sure you are mixing up your calls to action. If you are sitting between 2 to 2.5% or 1.2 to 2% for e-commerce, then I would say you have a strong click rate, so well done. But if you still want to improve, this is where I would start to look at your email design and the layout and just making sure your calls to action are really, really obvious, that you've got, buttons, contrasting text, links, you're really using great conversion copy. So you're really, making it obvious where you want people to go and what you want them to click on and do, as well as mixing it up with some of maybe those extra little engagement getting hacks. And then if you are sitting above about 2.5% or above 2% for e-commerce, you are doing excellent. Again, keep it up. Maybe you play with some of the tips I shared, but then again, ask that question, can you send more emails? Now, unsubscribe rates, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because it just ties in with these other two, but I will mention that the average is 0.08%. So if you are getting a significantly higher unsubscribe rate than that, then that is again a sign that you might need to be looking at a list cleanup. It might also be a sign that maybe the content that you are sending isn't as relevant and that you might need to look at doing some segmenting. Now on to conversions, and I'm talking specifically about sales conversions here, and it is much trickier to kind of quantify this because obviously the goal of every campaign is different. We'll start with e-commerce because this is probably the easiest one to talk about, and we can look at averages here for placed order rates. So the average according to Klaviyo is 0.08% of subscribers place an order against a given campaign. So that's an individual campaign. So if you are sitting below 0.05%, I would say there's some improvement needed. Again, that list clean. Are you conveying your offer well? Are your calls to action clear? If you are about 0.06 to 0.08%, that's just below average. I would be looking at adding some extra conversion driving factors like social proof, testimonials, having like snapshot answers to questions about shipping and sizing and links and those sorts of things. Anything that can visually or just through one little click, people get some answers and some of those like guarantees and that risk reversal content, etc. If you are above 0.08% to about 1%, I would say you have a strong conversion rate, and I would be looking at some segmenting and some personalization, making sure we've got personalized product feeds and recommendations and things like that. And above 1%, again, excellent. Keep it up. Ask about sending more emails, or you can continue to play and experiment with some of those things like segmenting and conversion factors and just see if you can keep just upping it here and there. Now, for services and for digital programs, it is very tricky because obviously some emails you aren't sending your offers at all, or it's just a soft mention in the PS. You might not have as much repeat business. A lot of your conversions would come from like an initial either evergreen funnel or your initial welcome series. So that really comes under that automations banner. So it's more about, I would say, the biggest way you can tell if it's working well, apart from in your automations, is when you do a push. So this could be a launch, or it could be like a quarterly invitation for your services, or you do a couple of campaigns where you're sharing a new pop-up or a service. So that's what I would be looking at to get a snapshot of how well engaged your audience is when we're talking on a campaign level. And so when you do something like that, I would be looking at doing looking at a conversion rate of about between 0.05 to 2%. That seems to be the industry sort of guidelines. So if you are sitting below that 0.05, then I would definitely be looking at your offers. If you are sitting somewhere in that range, you're doing okay. So I would just be, again, just playing with your messaging, making sure you've got your targeting on point, and those sorts of things. And if you are above 2%, then I would definitely be looking at scaling it up and seeing what you can do to get more. One thing, interesting study that I found as part of this was something by Chili Pepper, I think it was, who did a study on their sales conversion rates wanting to book an initial sales call. So About 40% of people who said, yes, I'm interested, booked a meeting with sales if there was no immediate booking option. But 66.7 did if there was some sort of immediate booking option, meaning 122% improvement if you have a way that someone can book in with you immediately without having to jump through hurdles. So that means going to a checkout and paying, or going in and booking the appointment through an appointment booking software. So literally clicking a link in an email and going straight to the thing that you want them to do. So the more hurdles, the more things you have people to jump through, that could really be impacting your conversion rates, as well as some of the things that I spoke about with e-commerce. So adding things like social proof and testimonials and segmenting and personalization. So there is your checkup. We've had a quick look at your open rates, your click rates, your unsubscribes, and your conversions. So I guess my question to you is, what do you think is your weakest area? What's your strongest area? And what's the big one action you are going to take out of this to help improve your rates? Sometimes it could just be a matter of experimenting with a change for 2 or 3 campaigns to see if it works for you. Don't forget to head over to yaelkeone.com/email quiz to take a slightly deeper dive. I go into more things like frequency and some other engagement ideas. And there's also more tips associated with those. You can head to yaelkeone.com/email quiz, and you don't even need to give me your email address to see your results. It's just all there handy for you. And definitely make sure to check out the show notes for extra resources. Of course, as always, if you want help to take action on any of these things, make sure to check out my course, Engaging Emails, at yaelkeone.com/engage. You will learn all about that email design and how you can make that conversion focused. You will look at strategic content creation and knowing what content your audience wants. We look at these specific metrics of opens, clicks, and deliverability and how to improve. We look at sales and conversions strategy, plus we dive into some of those automations and personalization. So many things in there to help improve your metrics. Check it out at yaelkeone.com/engage. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'd love to hear from you about what you've enjoyed from this episode or what you want to know about in future episodes. Let me know over on Instagram. I'm at yaelkeone, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Easy Email Marketing. It's an absolute honour that you chose to listen. If you love this episode, then it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review so that others can find this podcast and make their email marketing easy too. Finally, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. Until next time, have an awesome day and make sure to keep showing up and serving in those inboxes.